Okay, here goes nothing. So, I'd already gone through some of this stuff. Damn, it's hanging.
You have to share it with the audio also. Audio, video.
There you have it. Tension, surprise, relief. There is not much more to humor than that. But in these three little words, you actually capture the essence of the most engrossing storytelling of almost any sort. Sometimes the relief is in the form of a sigh of relief. Sometimes it's in the form of a laugh of relief. Sometimes it's in the form of tears of joy of relief as well. All of them constitute tension, surprise, and relief. The kind of relief that humor gives is the, shall we say, the most light on the heart, the easiest to cope with, and the one that we want more often than we want the other kinds. The other kinds are emotionally far more demanding. Look at this now.
इंडिया की सड़कों पे आपको अलग अलग महापुरुष मिलेंगे, जैसे हमारे अपने ये हुसैन बोल्ट। इंडिया भले ओलंपिक्स में फिसलती हो, पर ऐसे चैंपियन हमारी सड़कों के कोने कोने में छुपे हैं। ये कभी भी आपकी गाड़ी के सामने लॉन्ग जंप, हाई जंप और स्टीपल चेस का उम्दा नमूना दे सकते हैं।
Now, just for a moment, let me ask you the question. What do you think is going on here? Does anybody want to just volunteer a response? So, one thing is quite clear, and all of us have experienced it since we drive in this great city of Bombay. Right now, I know a lot of us have not driven. And like a friend of mine was saying the other day, earlier I used to talk in terms of kilometers per liter on my car. Now I talk in terms of kilometers per month. So things have changed a little bit. But so we now get our mileage estimates in terms of how many months does a full tank last? Not how many kilometers. Anyway, so what do you think is happening in this sequence? Does anybody want to offer a response? Okay, no worries. I will carry on regardless. So this is the reality, that when we are on the road, we have to anticipate the unexpected. Well, that's the way it works, right? They keep telling you, everybody tells you that if you want to hone your reflexes to a fine T, right, there's no better place to do it than to drive on a road in India and in Bombay for sure, right? And if you happen to want to really test those response times, try driving in Kalba Devi sometime. Go to CP Tank and come back. If nothing else, it will give you a terrific aerobic workout. You'll be breathless just looking at what's going on. So back to this particular story, Seat Tires figured out that the real capability of the tire which they wanted to demonstrate for a two-wheeler tire was its ability to stop quickly, right? That the braking ability, because of the treads that the tire offers, was really, really good. And therefore, the rider can come to a halt every time somebody is doing these Olympic tricks. Let's go back and watch the ad once more.
इंडिया की सड़कों पे आपको अलग अलग महापुरुष मिलेंगे, जैसे हमारे अपने ये हुसैन बोल्ट। इंडिया भले ओलंपिक्स में फिसलती हो, पर ऐसे चैंपियन हमारी सड़कों के कोने कोने में छुपे हैं। ये कभी भी आपकी गाड़ी के सामने लॉन्ग जंप, हाई जंप और स्टीपल चेस का उम्दा नमूना दे सकते हैं। तो एक दिन भारत एथलेटिक्स में स्वर्ण पदक जीते और आप ये दिन देखने के लिए सलामत रहे। चलाएं सीएट बाइक टायर्स पे फॉर द गेम कॉल्ड रोड। सीएट, इट हेल्प्स।
Well, you
Really
saw it.
funny. Very funny,
Sorry.
Adam.
It is, isn't it? It's and the thing is that it's the humor, which now let's see why that humor. First of all, humor enables you to pick an audience, right? One thing that is like marketing 101 or business 101, I would argue, is you need to know whom you're talking to, right? You cannot make a generic proposition that everybody will be pleased with. People have very specific tastes, very specific preferences, and my preferences and your preferences might be vastly different. One man's food is another man's poison and stuff like that. So you've got to be clear whom you are targeting to. And let's just look at the next ad because it makes that point.
Raj, I'm going to break up कर लिया. I hope you know that. You know, whenever I'm with Raj, na, I feel very wrong. But with you, पता नहीं मैं तुम्हें ये सब क्यों बता रही हूँ. पर मम्मी पापा के साथ ना मुझे लगता है
मैंने अपनी आखिरी पल्स कैंडी खा ली.
ठीक है तो मेरा कंप्यूटर तो ठीक कर दो.
पल्स पे छुपे टांगीपन का हर कोई दीवाना प्राण जाए बस पल्स ना जाए.
There you go. Now, it is quite possible that a person of a certain temperament is going to look at it and say, what terrible morality this is. I mean, you know, these young people are getting up to all kinds of mischief these days. We don't trust them, you know, unreliable folks and very loose morals, I tell you, really, really loose morals. And particularly these girls these days, oh God, you can't allow it, right? On the other hand, there is going to be a bunch of people, and I see that there are a few young Rotarians here who are going to say, yeah, I know what's going on there. And they may know it from either side. They may know it from the person who was sitting on the table or from the perspective of this person sitting in the chair. Now, when Pulse makes an ad like this, Pulse is quite clear that it is prepared to miff some people, that everybody will not be pleased. But here's the good thing. The target audience that it wants to please will be rather pleased that some people are miffed with this ad, right? So if my kids like this ad, they'll like it even more if they discover that I somehow disapprove of it, right? My disapproval will actually enhance the joy of enjoying the ad rather than diminish it in any way. We all talk about our guilty pleasures, right? A pleasure is enhanced if there is an aspect of it which is slightly dodgy, which is slightly irregular. And this is the kind of thing where actually it's a pretty benign kind of joy, right? It's a candy, it's no big deal. But you're taking the candy and you're actually turning it into something which has a little bit of, you know, sort of layer of mischief about it, a little bit of layer of something which is slightly dodgy, which is not exactly immoral or anything, but, you know, which treads on slightly thin ice. And that kind of thing will actually work very well for young people. They won't see it as diminishing the value of the brand. It will actually enhance the value of the brand. Brands and any offer of any sort needs to pick and choose, right? You can't be a little bit to everybody. You've got to mean a great deal to somebody. When you talk in terms, you know, when we talk about wooing the consumer, you can't go around wooing everybody. You know, everybody is not worth wooing. But there are a few people who are. And then you focus on them and you pay attention to them and you woo them and you do whatever it takes to woo them, right? You don't generally hold up a placard saying, hey, I love you all and will you all marry me? No, I don't think it works like that, right? You've got to serenade somebody. And brand communication or commercial communication of any description constitutes exactly that, right? You pick and you woo and you bring people around. And there is no better way of bringing somebody around to your corner than making them laugh, right? Every single person whom I have met all my life, when you ask them to describe their spouse, right now I see Barjor and his significantly better other half sitting next to him. And I periodically notice that she has the most charming smile, right? I have a feeling that after this, Barjor is going to have to spend the rest of the afternoon ensuring that she keeps that smile on her face. And it will not be enough for Barjor to just say that, I made the rest of my club smile, because she's going to turn around and say, right, I mean, who are you married to? Let's get that out of the way. On that note, moving on. Make yourself look different from everybody else. How do you do that?
Hello, I'm a Mac. And I'm a PC. Sensei, you okay? No, I'm not okay. I have that virus that's going around. Oh, yeah. Like you better stay back. This one's a doozy. That's okay, I'll be fine. No, do not be a hero. Last year, there are 114,000 known viruses for PCs. PCs, not Macs. So...
Do you know that this ad is not a new ad? This ad is 15 years old, but somehow it works again right now.
Hello, I'm a Mac. And I'm a PC. Sensei, you okay? No, I'm not okay. I have that virus that's going around. Oh, yeah. Like you better stay back. This one's a doozy. That's okay, I'll be fine. No, do not be a hero. Last year, there are 114,000 known viruses for PCs. PCs, not Macs. So, I think I got a crash. Hey, if you feel it, that'll help.
So, now, of course, one quick straw poll. How many Mac users in this group? Right.
Yeah, I do.
I'm coming to you over a Mac myself. And needless to say, Mac users have a tendency to be judgy with other people. So I'm going to reserve my judgment for fear that if I run into any of you who is not a Mac user the next time, I may have to suffer the consequences. PC users are lovely as well. All right. I love you all. White flag. Finally, actually, let me stay with this ad a little longer. They have put in so many cues which actually talk about the nature of the brand, that the PC is old and tubby and stuffy and conservative and looks a little bit like a banker or something like that. And the Apple guy is young and he's, sort of relaxed and he's chilled out, and he's much younger, which is very, very clear. And the contrast between the two couldn't be more stark. Now, the interesting thing is that look at the way that those of us who have chosen to use Macs for their personal device have identified with the young bloke. I don't look like him. I'm very clear. I am now in the category, I have been in that category for a long time, called uncle in India, right? I became an uncle before I became dad, which is a bit of a problem, right? So because I'm uncle, I feel even more sore, desperately need not to feel like an uncle. And you know what? The devices that we own these days are signifiers of how we feel on the inside. It's a manifestation of our feeling on the inside. So I might look like an uncle, but you know what? Underneath of this unclely look is a hipster. So I can also be cool and also listen to loud music. My son is in the next room, and one of the best times of my day comes when, late in the evening, I poured myself my first whiskey and I turn up the volume on something like a Who album, Who's Next? And let's say I play or Tommy or maybe a Led Zepp album. And my son comes and says, Baba, can you dial down the volume a bit?
गाना गाते नहीं करके उस दिन मैंने स्लीवलेस पहना तो काट के बुरा हाल कर दिया.
Now, what is this ad for? Watch.
तंग आ गई हूँ रोज रोज के इस झंझट से. मतलब थोड़ा सा रिलैक्स क्या करूं? बीपी बढ़ जाता है तुम्हारा. रात रात भर मुझे सोने नहीं देते. कान में आके मेरे गाना गाते नहीं करके. उस दिन मैंने स्लीवलेस पहना तो काट के बुरा हाल कर दिया. औरत है, सह लेगी, यही सोचते हो ना तुम? अब तू क्या, तेरा बाप भी नहीं आ सकता. अंदर आके दिखा, लड़ी मच्छर.
पेश है नया D&D. ये मच्छरों को सिर्फ भगाता नहीं, घर में आने से भी रोकता है.
महंगा होगा ना?
36 rupees only. D&D, मच्छरों का END.
So, Barjor, we may need to consider a suo motu complaint against this brand, but that we will do separately in a different life. But look what happens. In the entire beginning of the conversation, you hear a woman complaining about what you assume to be her husband. And then the kind of things that she's saying edge on the salacious. Very, very risque. And yet, so you create the tension, and the tension gets built up further because even the father-in-law is invoked. And just when you start to imagine a really tricky ménage à trois, a mosquito falls into the calculation, all is well. Now, I want to tell you that none of this is necessarily expensive. And what I'm about to show you is real. It's not imagined. I have been there. Is there anybody in the group who has been to Kanpur?
Yeah.
Do we have? Yeah?
Plenty.
Yes. Oh, good. Excellent. Because if you have, then you will know what I'm going to show you is for real. This is real. There is a shop in Kanpur called Thaggu Ke Laddu. And the motto of this shop is "Aisa koi saga nahi, jisko humne thaga nahi." And if you notice, they also have a kulfi shop which says "Badnaam kulfi, mehman ko chakhana nahi, tik jayega." Now, who would imagine that Thaggu, which is a Hindi word for dacoit or bagi or dacoit or a daku, right? A thug. Actually, the English word thug comes from the Hindi word thug. And thuggi was actually a practice. I mean, these were traditional tribes which were basically bandits, right? And so Thaggu ke laddu, right? The laddu sold by the bandit. And with a slogan like that, "Aisa koi saga nahi," there is nobody jo hamara rishtedar hai jisko humne thaga nahi. Now, then you start thinking about it and you see how he has twisted the meaning into something which is about the thagna by charm, that I captured you not by any, theft or burglary or anything like that. I stole your heart. सगे का हमने ठगा. क्या ठगा? पैसा तो नहीं ठगा, हमने तो लड्डू दिया. अब लड्डू दिया, उसके बाद ठगी कैसे हुई? ठगी ये हुई कि हमने आपका दिल खा लिया, दिल जीत लिया, दिल को हमने आप कब्जे में कर लिया. And this is a brand which actually, I mean, people who come to Kanpur, and I've grown up in Kanpur, I spent some formative years of my life in that city. People actually make a beeline to this place. And they have never made themselves into a fancy shop. It's still very much a corner store. It's like an Irani in Bombay, So if you want to go to Kani in Pune, or if you want to go to, say, Lucky in Bandra, they're never going to get fancy. They are how they are. This is it, right? But the charm lies in the fact that they have not turned themselves into glitzy and glossy. And they can use a line like this, which they will no longer be able to use if they somehow turn glitzy and glossy. The charm of humor is you don't need to be wealthy to try humor out. Anybody can use humor. One thing which, again, I remember from my Kanpur years, and it was quite a thing, Chana Jor Garam, right? These guys are what you would now refer to as slam poets. Every Chana Jor Garam guy will be running around on the street, and he or she has a complete non-stop, I mean, like they talk about rap battles. These guys almost have those Chana Jor Garam battles where there are two guys who are both selling Chana Jor Garam and both are talking of the virtues of their respective Chana, and they are spontaneous. Their creativity is just unbelievably spontaneous. It is sale or the art of selling as a performance art. It's a performative thing. And it's humorous, and it is punchy, and it is pithy, and it's contemporary, and it makes it light, right? So humor is not in the preserve of anybody in particular. Somebody, in fact, my introducer very kindly decided to ask the question about where the provocateur comes from. And I will answer that question just as I'm ready to roll up this presentation and my little talk to you. I do advisory work. I do consulting work, and I do consulting work in the world of media, in television and the related spaces. And I have always believed that I can't offer any answers. I am not in the business of writing out a report which will answer anybody's question. My task when I work with my clients is to ask the right questions. I noticed that there are many physicians in your group, and I have noticed that the greatest knowledge and skill of the best physicians that I have encountered is their ability to tease out everything that they need to know from the patient, right? The conversation that they engage in is able to find the nuance even before they get their stethoscopes on. Even because they know you, they have known you from before, they know your history, intuitively it's in their head. And then when they get talking with you, they know exactly where they are going. So long before they hold your pulse, and long before they start checking your temperature, and long before the sphygmomanometer goes up on your arm, they've already got a very decent idea of what's going on just by listening, right? By the conversation. And the best physicians are the physicians with the best bedside manner. And what is that? They keep you lively, they keep you, they don't let you worry, they keep you interested, and they differentiate. That is also differentiation. And, the doctors you like to go to are doctors who don't take themselves seriously. They are terrific practitioners because they don't need to take themselves so seriously. It's only people who don't have heft. It's only people and businesses that don't have substance that have to take themselves seriously all the time. Let's carry on, and I'll show you something else. This is important, that, we need to be able to turn that humorous lens onto ourselves, and, turn the irony onto ourselves, and even turn the satire onto ourselves.
Hinge is dying for people to find each other. Literally. Because when our users hit it off, we bite the dust. And we're thrilled to death about it. Hinge, the dating app designed to be deleted.
Right. Now, I'm not going to embarrass all of you people by asking you how many of you are on Tinder. So don't even tell me. Yeah, I don't want to know. But here is an app which was most charming. Hinge says that my job comes to an end the moment you found yourself your date. the moment you found yourself your partner. I don't need to be in your life after that, right? So I go there and I work hard for you. I find you a match and I get out, right? They literally have that cross on the app. The deleting of this app is the fastest you can delete any app, right? It comes pre-ready with a cross which says, drop me if you don't need me. And that's why they take the brand logo, the Hinge logo, and they kill it. Watch the ad again. Gone in the seat.
Hinge is dying for
Frozen
people to
in
find
the-
each other. Literally. Because when our users hit it off, we bite the dust. And we're thrilled to death about it. Hinge, the dating app designed to be deleted.
Now, this is a level of confidence in your own brand, which is really, really rare, right? A brand which says that I know I'm so good that it'll work the first time you use me. And after you got what you need from me, I don't need to hang around anymore. All right. And I think this is actually the test of really good humor. Really good humor and really good humorous people are people who are able to turn the ironic lens on themselves, right? It's important for the world to know that you're not only poking fun at the world, that the place where you start to poke fun at begins with you. You start by poking fun at yourself. And this, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much is the end of the presentation. If any of you have been to an Irani, and I'm assuming everyone has, then we have seen these boards, and they have gone from perhaps once upon a time being serious statements about what you shall and shall not do, clear precepts about what is permitted and what is not, to now being just a way of, in a sense, taking the mickey out of themselves. This is the Irani telling you that, we used to be like this and we used to be all stuffed shirts. And it's all right if you laugh at us because we don't mind, we can laugh with you. And that is that. And let me just stop screen sharing. I hope it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's it. I'm done.
Wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. Paritosh, any questions? I think some members would like to ask him.
If somebody wants to throw an egg, you know what? It's only hitting your computer, so I'll survive.
I'll just add, if I can add. Berger.
Yeah.
No, I just want to say we really enjoyed, and the humor part was very, very refreshing, and nice to see it in the form of ads. So there's no pressure to buy, but you actually enjoy the ad. And lovely examples that you gave, and it really gave us another side of the advertising industry also. And it can be done without much expense, you said also sometimes. And still maybe not hire the stars and all and still get your point across, So that's really enjoyable. I'm glad we came here to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Paritosh, I'd like to ask you something. With the advent of OTT platforms, a certain segment, a rather large chunk, at least the urban segment, is off the TV. And in fact, I do not recall when I last saw an ad and actually missed it, because seeing these ads keeps you updated with so many things. So,
Yes.
how is the industry coping with the losing out a segment which cannot really be bombarded with ads which were traditionally being done on the TV media?
So, Manoj, first things first, you're right that there is a certain segment of the population which is shifting massively to OTT, which is absolutely true. And that there will be more and more people who will be exposed to OTT services because data is cheap. So that will continue to happen. But I don't think advertising or even television is going away in a hurry. We track through BARC, we track the time spent on TV, and we track the time spent on linear or non-linear services like OTT. And at this point in time, the average time spent by an Indian, and this may come as a surprise to you, we spend about 210 minutes per day on consuming audiovisual content, right? On an average, 3.5 hours. Out of that, when you average it out across the entire Indian audience, no more than 15 minutes is on OTT. That 15 minutes to a group like this actually inflates into 3 hours a day, right? Because we have reduced our linear TV consumption only to about 20 minutes a day. Maybe we catch up on news headlines in the morning, maybe we catch up on news headlines in the evening, and we don't watch much TV during the day. So in our mind, TV is reduced to only 15 minutes and the rest has gone to OTT. But the reality is still elsewhere. The reality is that there's lots of TV which is still viewed in the regular conventional linear form. This is one. But there's a second. The second part is advertising is now getting into the storytelling. So now you call it's called native advertising. Native in the sense that it is native to the content which you are seeing. So every time you see a Coca-Cola cup on a commentator's table, even if that Coca-Cola cup is removed, as it was done by a football player in Europe very recently, as we all remember, it still attracts attention. Yeah. Even the act of removing it from there created headlines around the world. I mean, the amount of, in a sense, memorability that that brand generated by the act of being removed from the table is almost more than what it would have received by running a spot, right? This is native advertising. Every time you watch the performance of a BMW doing crazy things in a TV show or a Lamborghini taking off faster than light, the brand is advertising, right? It appears like it is in the content because it is in the content. It is intrinsic to the storyline. But every time somebody orders a pizza in a show, every time somebody has a burger in a show, every time somebody calls for an Uber in a show, the brand is advertising. Every time you see a Tesla driving up, the brand is advertising. You don't see it as advertising because it has been incorporated into the content itself, right? You will see much more of that in times to come. This integrated, embedded, native communication. So a youngster like Tahir, as he grows into a marketing professional in the future, or Sanjana, they are going to do a lot more native work and a lot less spot. Once upon a time, even Keki must have attended some copy strategy workshops because everybody in Procter & Gamble did it. But the way that it works now is you've gone from thinking in terms of 30-second commercial advertising to something which can last for 1 second or which could go on for an hour, right? I mean, you could theoretically be doing a car chase sequence in an action-adventure film, which happens routinely, say, in James Bond films, in which the protagonist is actually effectively demonstrating the capabilities of the vehicle to you. So the protagonist is driving the vehicle, but you, observing it, are saying, oh, okay, so this is what the Bema can do, right? So messaging has switched from, exclusive messaging to integrated messaging. The exclusive messaging in the form of the spot is not disappearing. It's not going to go away for a long time to come. But you will see much, much more native communication.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Sir.
Yeah. On BARC, the controversy that was there, and could you throw some light on that issue that was there?
Okay. I have been writing about it, and I will write more in the times to come. But here's the short version. It's an ongoing tragedy of all consumer research in India that there is always a vested interest which attempts to fudge it, particularly if it is syndicated research, right? So syndicated research is research that is shared across multiple clients, right? It's not customized for one client. The moment you do that, and I'll give you an example outside of BARC for a moment to illustrate the point. I used to be in charge of a research called the Indian Readership Survey, which, as the name suggests, is a study of reading habits of newspapers and magazines. On a routine basis, we used to detect attempts to infiltrate our sampling efforts done by some of the biggest publishing houses in the country. I'm not going to name them, but think of the top publishing houses whose newspapers you read every day, and you will know whom I'm talking about, right? They would try to do things which would artificially inflate their readership numbers. Why is that important? Because as the readership number inflates, the price that they can demand for their advertising goes up. There is a direct incentive, and here's how that incentive works. One home that you find reading a publication translates into 3,000 homes when you report it, when you project to the population, right? One sample home is equal to 3,000 population homes. If it is in rural India, one sample home is equal to 9,000 homes. So if I nobble one home, I'm going to get an increase of 9,000 homes in the report, right? If I nobble 100 homes, that's 9 lakh homes, right? Even if I was to pay each of those 100 homes 10,000 rupees, I spent 10 lakh rupees on that entire project of fudging the data. That 10 lakh rupees is going to turn into 20 crores of advertising. The multiples make me, incentivize me to want to fudge. This, unfortunately, is the reality. The reality is, it is a game of cat and mouse between the research body and the client community. And sadly, some of the biggest names in the media, for all their constant protestations about everybody else's morality, because the news media believes that it is automatically has the authority of judging everybody else's morality. But as we say in Hindi, apne गिरेबान में झांक के देखने की आदत हमें नहीं होती है. So we fudge, and it is just a habit, and you get caught. And when you get caught, you deny, right? Because there are layers and layers. So when you talk about Republic TV, the problem is that we know that a fudge happened, but being able to establish it beyond reasonable doubt is nearly impossible because you have so many levels of intermediation in this. उसने इसको बोला, उसने उसको बोला, उसने उसको बोला, then the third guy says, हमें तो पता नहीं, हमको फोन आया था, उसने हमको 10,000 रुपया भेज दिया, खत्म हो गया. So the reality is that yes, do fudges happen? They absolutely do, right? Do the media themselves attempt to fudge data? Yes, they do. And then how do research organizations like BARC react? Well, BARC has an extensive process of monitoring and enforcing discipline. And BARC actually has a committee called the Disciplinary Council, on which I serve. And we are tasked with ensuring that people do not follow the license agreements which they have signed. The problem is that, tracing the entire thread of malign intention is not the easiest thing in the world to do. I'm sure some of you are lawyers, and I'm sure, you recognize that in the matter of law, very often being able to establish a really hard line of responsibilities for malign acts is not easy to do. So it's a continuing battle. That's the story, and it's going to remain the story. I mean, it's not going to change.
I have one more question. My view on advertising is that it's like, when you want to brush your teeth, you basically need a mug of water, half a mug of water. But we run the tap and we possibly use 10 mugs of water. And my own experience is that I was the pioneer who set up Eureka Forbes door-to-door marketing. And we didn't advertise the first 6 years. But after I left, the company has been doing tremendous, and I think only invited competition to get into the business. What is your reaction to that?
Well, the competition would have come one way or the other. You're right. I mean, when you launched AquaGuard and when you launched your vacuum cleaner, there was not anybody else in the marketplace. But the reality is categories develop. So the categories might begin with somebody who does direct-to-consumer selling, but categories grow out anyway. So whether you had advertised or you had not advertised, it would have been a matter of time because different people use different marketing and distribution models. Now, your distribution model was direct to consumer. Somebody would find an intermediated model of distributor, dealer, stockist, retailer, and so on. And all models coexist. And eventually, what also happens is that when you put a product into the market, you spur innovation in that space. So when you launched your first AquaGuard or when you launched your first water cooler, you immediately also triggered the innovator to think about what can I do to make it better. You were doing it yourselves. I know. You had your own research team trying to constantly improve the product that you were selling. But everybody else in the marketplace and anybody who had any experience of working with electrical appliances would look at it and say, it involves motors and it involves gears and it involves transform or whatever it is, and I can do all of that. And I can do it better and I can do it using less power, or I can deliver a more silent operation, or I can deliver a purer quality of water or whatever else, right? So I don't think that you should blame the company for choosing to advertise because sooner or later, and I would argue sooner rather than later, the competitor will arrive, and it goes in both directions. So, if you take, say, personal products and cosmetics, now direct-to-consumer sellers like Amway came long after there were brands like L'Oreal in the marketplace, Maybelline in the marketplace. So the direct-to-consumer came after the conventionally marketed brand. And this is also not unusual. I mean, Tupperware direct-to-consumer, but have we been using kitchen equipment before Tupperware? Yes, we have. Have brands existed in that space? Yes, they absolutely have. So I don't think that necessarily proves or disproves anything. It just happens to be choices that people make. Well, thank you.
Muted.
Hi, Paritosh.
Sorry, any other questions?
Hi, Paritosh. Keki here.
Hi, Keki.
Nice to hear my own name from your mouth. Do you remember the old advertisements of Richardson Wicks?
Yes, I do. Remember that some of them myself.
Gale mein khich khich.
Yes. Yes.
Those animation advertisements. Yeah.
Do you remember that I was the second guy to continue the Ha Bhai Ha campaign?
Yeah, that's right.
So there was Ronnie Khan.
Ronnie Khan was the king. Yeah.
And he launched that Ha Bhai Ha, and then I carried that little baton forward for a while.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Ronnie was a real genius. Yeah.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
Lost him.
But then when PNG came, it became a little staid, no? More of the product and
yes, it did.
Less of lightheartedness and less of...
We were way cooler RHL than those Procter guys.
That's right. There was a cultural shift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I request...
Paritosh ji, may I ask a question? Varsha?
Yeah, sure.
Now the social media is the king nowadays, or it's trying to become the king, and it stays ads stay much longer in the social media and YouTube forever, whilst in the television and the newspaper media, it comes and it vanishes in a day's time. It's old news, and it's also expensive. So how do you think the balance will happen, and what is the effect of television and news media with respect to social media nowadays? India has such a large internet population and everybody's on the phone now.
So what we are discovering, I mean, with the passage of time, is that, if I may use a very commonplace sort of jargon which marketing people are using or media people are using these days, we call it lean forward media and lean back media, right? Now, when I use my laptop, right, I'm doing right now, I lean into the laptop because I have to use the keyboard or I have to use the mouse. When I'm watching TV, I kick back, on my recliner and, like I said, probably get myself a whiskey. Now, both make sense. The lean forward medium, which is what is also called pull content, works because people seek content out and watch it. But also people like to be entertained without having to apply their minds too much. So there are times when you say, okay, let me see what's going on that channel and let me just push back and enjoy, right? I don't want to get into the hard job of trying to figure out ki abhi kya dekhu. Both work. And they don't compete, they coexist. And indeed, it's even better than that. What we are learning to do as content creators or communicators or marketing people is we are learning to make the two work in tandem, right? Now, let me give you an example. Over the weekend, some of you watched tennis, some of you watched football, some of you watched cricket, and there were those crazies who watched all three, right? And when you're watching everything, there are bits and bobs where you want to know a little more about what's going on screen. So what's going on screen is on your TV, and then you're trying to figure out, okay, how many Wimbledon titles does Novak Djokovic have? And then, either you ask Alexa because you have an Alexa lying in the room, and then Alexa says it's the 6th title, or you do it to Google on your mobile device. So you're watching on one screen and you're getting additional information or collateral from a second screen, right? Now, this kind of collateral tie-ins between what's happening on one delivery mechanism and what's happening on another is very common now, and you will see it actually increase. In fact, what will begin to happen is that you will start to see devices on your phone, apps on your phone, which will respond automatically to what is happening on the TV. So if you want to know the cast of a particular Netflix show, if your Netflix app is on your phone and your Netflix is going on your TV, if you turn on your app, it will automatically tell you who is there in that show, who are these actors on the screen right now.
Last time also he told me I don't mind doing it.
And which will tell you about what are the shows they've appeared in, how long they've been at, whatever it. I mean, you get their bios and you get their pictures and everything. So we don't believe that, different media types necessarily compete. Even I belong to the point of view that says that they actually work together, they work in harmony, and they work in a chorus. It's not a cacophony. It is if you don't know how to use it, and then it becomes cacophonous. But if you know how to deploy your assets right? And this is true no matter what discipline you are in. Manoj was mentioning that, he's been in the hospitality industry like he and my sister. Now, when you enter a hotel, right, all the elements work together, and any one element which is out, even in the slightest, if you notice a puff of dust from the carpet, no matter how classy the interiors and how high the ceilings and how well turned out all the staff in the front office are, that one puff of dust from the carpet will nag you, right? And conversely, it might be a very plain facility, but everybody is kind to you, everybody is smiling at you, it's spick and span, limited but clean, feels welcoming, you're happy to embrace it, right? I think the idea that elements work together is how we see the media now, and not as colliding, but colluding.
I got it. Thank you. Thanks, Barsha. Barsha, you're on mute.
Mute, sorry, yeah. Paritosh, thanks a lot. Can I request Ashwin Ankar to propose a vote of thanks, please?
Thank you, Barjo. And Paritosh, sir, we are very happy you were here and you have taken us through the various facets of advertising. And next time we look at any advertisement, our angle is changed. We would look how it attracts people, any advertisement being done. We are really grateful to you. It was very educative. It was very educative, very educative for us. And thank you, Barjor, for bringing in such a nice speaker from the different world we are in. And thank you, Manoj, for managing the virtual platform as usual very effectively. And thanks to all members for being here. So see you all next Wednesday at Faryaz. Thank you very much.
Cheers.